an ethics class, and it will just be a straight reading, so nothing interpretive, nothing fancy, just I'm reading off of a computer screen to you. It is titled Restoring Pro-Human Language in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, in quotations, Toward a Convivial Life by me, Joshua Matthews, August 11th, 2025. This paper argues that the term, quote, artificial intelligence is a category mistake that undermines ethics, friendship, and the common good, and that reclaiming precise pro-human language is essential to guiding technology toward human flourishing. I draw on Aristotle's notion of friendship, natural law, and Ivan Illich's call for tools that serve the common good. My primary source is Antiqua et Nova, a theological document with a far longer track record than any tech company in defending human flourishing, the dignity of friendship, and a robust anthropology of intelligence. Two notes as we begin. First, because the infinite complexities of geopolitical implications, for example, cyber warfare, political incentives or motivations, Neuralese recurrence memory, iterated distillation and amplification, and other technological advances, and the sheer breadth in which AI has dominated public discourse and permeated consumer culture, the scope of this paper is limited to the ethics of artificial intelligence at a personal level, not corporate, national, or global level. As a brief aside, this is a footnote, the author believes we have no idea the power of, quote, meta-intelligence, and believes we potentially unleashed a power that is greater than nuclear or atomic warheads. We have seen an alarm go off the last 6 months, let alone just this week from the New York Times in reference to Kashmir Hill and Dylan Friedman's article, Chatbots Can Go into a Delusional Spiral, published August 8, 2025, and the Wall Street Journal's article by Sam Schenscher and Sam Kessler. The article is called I Feel Like I'm Going Crazy, ChatGPT Fuels Delusional Spirals, published on August 7th, 2025, and Peggy Noonan's editorial article titled AI is Here and a Quiet Havoc Has Begun, published in the weekend edition of the Wall Street Journal, August 9th and 10th, 2025. And yet, the release and excited acceptance of ChatGPT 5.0 and deep research, which can generate a multi-page paper in minutes that might otherwise have taken me or a research assistant several weeks. I believe that we are already addicted and enslaved to this technology, that the culture of optimization, utility, and efficiency has adopted a techno-optimist underpinning and is motivated largely by money, in the case of investors, power, in the case of nations, and glory, in the case of techno-capitalists and developers themselves. With motivations like these and a product like ChatGPT, which promises more of the above for all humankind, we cannot pump the brakes. Pandora's box is open. With this groundwork laid as a society, I am skeptical that we can proceed with any good ethic. Therefore, this paper will try, nonetheless, to specifically address the individual user. That is the end of that footnote. The same principles regarding intelligence, in quotations, will still apply globally, but in different kind. Second, it is not necessarily the focus of this paper to discuss how or whether to use AI, but the central claim is that the use of language will impact the ethics we instantiate. If we know what a thing is and name it as such, we can determine its right use. By misnaming, we are liable to misuse that thing. In the case of quote-unquote artificial intelligence, we conflate computational logic and human intelligence implicitly in our language. Therefore, we are treating computing very similarly to human intelligence, despite their massive categorical differences. Other examples of misleading and ethically compromised language include words like trained, autonomous, learn, analyzing, predict, respond, adapt, suggest, neural network, evolutionary algorithm. This anthropomorphization implies agency and smuggles in life concept and, quote, blurs the line between human and machine. Even the most honest term, machine learning, implies thoughtfulness, though with the qualifier machine. Even terms like disembodied and hyper real subtly introduce life concept. Better terms, rather, include imitation, counterfeit, simulacrum, simulation, and saturated. The word artificial implies a substitute. Think of, for example, artificial sugar, where aspartame is a one-to-one replacement for sugar, the sugar molecule, and in some cases, the quote unquote healthier alternative or the more real alternative. This entanglement of language, and the reader may be interested in another example given by Ivan Illich, that time becomes like money. This is a quote from Ivan Illich. I now have, sorry, I now can have a few hours before lunch. How shall I spend my time? I am short of time, so I can't afford to spend that much time on a committee. It's not worth the time. It would be a waste of time. I'd rather save an hour. This is from Ivan Illich's Tools for Conviviality, where he compares time, or he conflates time and money. That's the end of that footnote. This entanglement of language, which techno-optimists have seamlessly intertwined, confuses the conversation and puts humankind back on its heels as technology marches forward because, quote, man has now become almost replaced by machines and reduced to being their operator, end quote. Conflating language in this way and overlaying computations onto human activity degrades language and human autonomy, learning, prediction, response, etc. Moore's law of exponential technological growth is working quickly against human intelligence, and the use of AI is compelling, enticing, and for better or for worse, inevitable. The importance of the intersection of intelligence, ethics, and common good is of utmost urgency. The momentum of AI in current affairs, common culture, and daily use is no longer a hypothetical plaything for Hollywood. The way we speak about intelligence and a curtailment of what we are talking about, apropos artificial intelligence, will iron out the ethics of how or whether we can continue using this sort of computational, quote unquote, thinking. Philosopher Ivan Illich implies in his 1973 Tools for Conviviality that slavery went out of style because machines were more economical and offered a better replacement value for human labor. If present-day technoculture is not already there, then we, as humans, are liable to become objects, playthings, and tools of the computers we once operated. In other words, without an ethical guideline for AI, human beings and human labor and human intelligence become the expensive, slow, inefficient, antiquated, unutilitarian, and therefore a removable component. We cannot take for granted our own ability to ethically guide the way forward. Sorting out our language around intelligence is the first step. Illich lays out 3 conditions for tools. 1, survival. 2, justice. 3, self-defined or convivial work. Without these interrelated conditions, quote, freedom and dignity will continue to dissolve into an unprecedented enslavement of man to his tools. As an alternative to technocratic disaster, I propose this vision of a convivial society, end quote. So then, what is intelligence? Is there such a thing as intelligent technology? What does artificial mean, as in artificial intelligence? In Book 6 of Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle teaches us that intelligence grasps first principles directly, intuitively, and as a whole. Pattern recognition, probability, inference are not part of nous like they are in artificial, quote unquote, intelligence. Rather, human intelligence, by definition, apprehends universals and can engage with reality and is shaped by embodied experience, including sensory input, emotional responses, social interactions, and the unique context of each moment. In De Anima, Book 3, Aristotle distinguishes intelligence into passive and active intellect. Passive intellect receives intelligible forms. Active intellect actualizes these forms into knowledge. Nous is immaterial and provides a direct insight into being qua being. St. Thomas Aquinas advances this framework and anchors it in an anthropology. Intellect is a faculty of the rational soul, quote, deeply connected to this world, working with the senses and, quote, yet transcending it by abstraction, and has an inherent orientation toward the truth. St. Thomas remarks that, quote, the term intellect is inferred from the inward grasp of the truth, while the name reason is taken from the inquisitive and discursive process, end quote. Intelligence is tied to choice, virtue, and action, all of which includes, quote, knowing and understanding, as well as willing, loving, choosing, and desiring. It also includes all corporeal functions closely related to these abilities, end quote. Artificial intelligence cannot abstract or arrive at forms of essences. The first principles are human provided until the day comes when technology is self-referencing and can develop unique logic based on prior generative data, which techno-optimists are calling superintelligence and artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Silicon processors cannot abstract from matter. There is no sensation or data retrieval system or organs to make observations. A computer, after all, must be turned on, and it does not have eyes, nose, ears, mouth, or hands to directly encounter reality, and therefore cannot really know something. A computer lacks in every organic and metaphysical sense, is contingent on human operations and energy, and, quote, lacking a physical body, relies on computational reasoning and learning based on vast data sets that include recorded human experiences and knowledge, end quote. Machines do not deliberate, they optimize according to coding rules. They lack choice and virtue in themselves. AI might simulate certain outputs of reasoning, but cannot possess the nous that apprehends the truth qua truth. Artificial intelligence may, for example, be able to solve complex negotiation on paper, but can it then negotiate? Quote, intelligence too cheap to meter is well within grasp, prophesizes Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, in his recent blog post, The Gentle Singularity. Altman lifts the phrase from Lewis L. Strauss, the chairman of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, in his 1954 speech to the National Association of Science Writers. This is his quote. It is not too much to expect that our children will enjoy in their homes electrical energy too cheap to meter. End quote. Altman proclaims, quote, we probably won't adopt a new social contract all at once, but when we look back in a few decades, the gradual changes will have amounted to something big. May we scale smoothly, exponentially, and uneventfully through superintelligence, end quote, which is in direct conflict with the humble concluding lines of Strauss's speech, which I will quote at length. I am sure we are agreed that the ultimate survival of America is dependent on intellectual vigor and on spiritual deep-rooting, not on specific devices, which are always for the moment. The atom has no ethics of its own any more than it has politics. Fundamental are respect and zeal for scholarship, a lively regard for moral values, and a love of truth. And of these, the last, of course, is the greatest. It would be well that we should pledge ourselves here, you and my associates and I, to work together unceasingly toward that end. Toward that good end, end quote. Misclassification and conflating these two uses of quote-unquote intelligence is a dire ethical mistake. The authors of Antiqua et Nova remark, quote, in light of this, AI should not be seen as an artificial form of human intelligence, but as a product of it, end quote. In the footnote to this quotation, the dicastery continues, quote, in this sense, quote unquote, artificial intelligence is understood as a technical term to indicate this technology, end quote. This may be true, but attributing intelligence to computational logic co-opts it into the hyperreal, as Baudrillard might say. The danger of misnaming becomes clearer when we look at a humbler subject than AI. Let's take, for example, a Costco factory farmed chicken. How much can I remove from a natural chicken before he is no longer a chicken? Can I clip his beak so that he does not peck his compatriots to death with whom he is crammed into a cage? Can I substantially alter his food source so that he never eats seeds, berries, leaves, insects, or worms, but instead is injected with a slurry of hormones, fattening agents, muscle enhancer, and filler? Chickens instinctively dust bathe to self-clean and to control parasites, but not in my factory farm, though. That warehouse is bleach sterile. Mechanistic things cannot subsist on their own as they are, which is an organic whole. Humans, in this example, always operate on the artificial parts that contain them in a unified entity, in this case, so-called chicken. Otherwise, the artificial thing will decay. The above chicken is not a real chicken. He is only barely alive, stained by extreme human intervention, and serves the singular purpose of maximum profit. He is not a chicken qua chicken. Rather, he is a chicken qua profit. Mechanical things, technological things, and artificial things are amalgamations of parts. The so-called chicken from Costco is really a mechanical, technological chicken, quote unquote. An image, a simulation of the whole, an artificial chicken, or AC for short, if you will. Extend this argument to intelligence. Human intelligence always requires a specific place, a specific time and context and emotion. Most of human intelligence includes sensory input, collaboration, two or more minds, though one mind is sufficient in the case of contemplation. It requires experience, complex motivations, potential limitations and insufficiencies. Intelligence requires action, which usually desires to build relationships and implies a risk of jeopardizing relationships. Acquiring intelligence requires work, resistance, persistence, focus, and is never frictionless. Intelligence has truth, experience, love, desire, unity, and goodness wrapped into it. How much of the above can be removed and still be called intelligence? Removing a human being from intelligence is no longer intelligence in any form, it is utterly something else. In AI, all of the above is removed. At best, AI only resembles intelligence. The term artificial intelligence is false equivalence. We must remember that, quote, it is not the machine, but the human who is in relationship with truth and goodness, end quote. And appropriately naming things allows for the right delegation of responsibility, i.e., ethical standards. As one considers the internet in its present form, artificial intelligence is fundamentally a commodification of human intelligence, rendering the internet no more than an institutionalized marketplace. The errors of our language are the result of techno-capitalists' excitement, utopian promises, marketing, and sales teams. In the interest of reclaiming humankind's intellectus, this paper will henceforth use accurate language when referencing what is colloquially known as artificial intelligence, and I propose we use the term Token Prediction System, or TPS for short. This language correction is foundational if we are to direct human intelligence and its products, i.e. TPS, toward a positive end, namely human dignity, friendship, and the common good. With human intelligence rightly restored to its proper place and a language properly calibrated, we turn our attention to the purpose and aim of intelligence. Intellect is the servant of the common good through friendship. Aristotle links one, intellect to two, justice or virtue, and links that to three, friendship, and then links that to four, the common good. Aristotle writes that man's greatest activity is the intellect's contemplation of truth. Orientation with the truth implies justice. Employs and I guess implies justice, which organizes all virtues and relationships. The highest form of relationship is friendship, two or more people mutually pursuing virtue. Since the highest virtue is intellectual, intellect's most perfect expression is when it is shared, or contemplation together. Number one, the intellect. Quote, it is clear then that it is not possible to be good in the absence of prudence, nor is it possible to be prudent in the absence of moral virtue, writes Aristotle in the Nicomachean Ethics, Book 6. Intellect is the architect of moral virtue. Quote, it follows that human intelligence possesses an essential contemplative dimension, an unselfish openness to the truth, the true, the good, and the beautiful, beyond any utilitarian purpose, end quote. Number 2, justice or virtue. Justice is, quote, complete virtue in relation to another. Justice alone of the virtues is held to be another's good because it relates to another. For it does what is advantageous to another, either to a ruler or to someone who shares in the community, end quote. Number 3, friendship. Friendship is the lived form of justice. In Aristotle's ideal world, human beings would be motivated by virtue and justice, and therefore act strictly in friendship toward perpetual common good. Friendship for Aristotle is inherently political. The polis, then, would be in perfect balance, concord, harmony, eunomia. To quote Aristotle, perfect friendship is the friendship of those who are good and alike in point of virtue. For such people wish in similar fashion for the good things for each other insofar as they are good, and they are good in themselves. Those who wish for the good things for their friends are friends most of all. End quote. Justice is made personal when actively sharing in the good, especially among the virtues. Number 4, the common good. The common good is the goal of friendship. The common good is a macroscopic vision of shared intellectual and contemplative life among friends. Aristotle has this to say. But if being happy consists in living and being active, if the activity of a good person is serious and pleasant in itself, as it was said at the beginning, if what is his own also follows among the pleasant things, and if we are better able to contemplate those near us than us ourselves, and their actions better than our own, then the actions of serious men who are friends are pleasant to those who are good. End quote. Happiness here is an ongoing activity in accord with virtue. Happiness and the contemplative or intellectual life are inherently social. Contemplation among people acting well, delight in others' good life, and this happiness is multiplied by being held in common. Intellect, at its core, necessarily involves other minds, growth and development, and action. Let us highlight the implications of token prediction systems as intelligence. TPS qua intelligence is an outsourcing of human intelligence. By outsourcing human rationality, we give to a non-autonomous source the very thing that makes human, well, human. We gamble away the happiness, relationship, virtue, and good, meaningful life. Society may end up discarding all goods, any remaining sense of right and wrong, and even the very concept of selfhood. Intellect is intimately bound to our identity. A carte blanche and universal substitution of our intelligence in favor of TPS is a fundamental denial of our nature. In other words, we may lose ourselves if we erase all boundaries and chalk over the particular and fundamental strengths of humankind to the artificial, which will erode, wash out, and drown our identity and our very selves. Not only does TPS pose a risk for ethical suicide, but at the rate described above, a psychological, spiritual, mental, emotional, and even a physical suicide too. There is an anthropological and comprehensive unity which intellectus governs. Quote, authentic engagement with reality requires embracing the full scope of one's spiritual being, cognitive, embodied, and relational. End quote. And to sacrifice one aspect of personhood deteriorates all aspects of personhood with recursive and compounding effects both outward toward others and inward toward self. Real human intelligence is not quantifiable. There is no dollar amount, principle of maximum pleasure, or reward that can represent the value of human intelligence. The value of human intelligence is intimately bound to human dignity. To quote Antiqua et Nova at length, human intelligence is not primarily about completing functional tasks, since AI lacks the richness of corporeality, relationality, and the openness of the human heart to truth and goodness. Its capacities, though seemingly limitless, are incomparable with the human ability to grasp reality. So much can be learned from illness, an embrace of reconciliation, and even a simple sunset. No device working solely with data can measure up to these and countless other experiences present in our lives, end quote. Now that we know that artificial intelligence is a misnomer, and we know that we know the final end and value of human intelligence, in this section of the paper we will explore the ways TPS can ethically be used, or can be ethically used. Ivan Illich, in his 1973 essay titled "Tools for Conviviality," notes, individuals need tools to move and dwell. They need remedies for their diseases and means to communicate with one another, end quote. And that we depend on culture and society to provide the specific needs of our specific time and place. Illich is critical of tools that are not in service of the common good. In a single sentence, he bluntly says, society can be destroyed when further growth of mass production renders the milieu hostile, when it extinguishes the free use of natural abilities of society's members, when it isolates people from each other and locks them into a man-made shell, when it undermines the texture of community by promoting extreme social polarization and splintering specialization, or when cancerous acceleration enforces his social change at a rate that rules out legal, cultural, and political precedents as formal guidelines to present behavior, end quote. It is difficult to consider a society in a harmonious balance of friendship and conviviality, or a just society. Illich claims that as education, medical, transportation systems, and all other industrialized institutions grow beyond a critical mass, they exercise a radical monopoly over the human spirit. We face this moment with the technology of TPS. From prehistoric man to pre-industrial man, high technology was equally distributed. Within each man contained the energy and power needed for the rest of his life. The leverage of his own physical and psychological energy could be enough to sustain him, his family, and perhaps some of his community. Or the collective use of the organization of manpower could achieve the great heights of the pyramids and widespread agriculture. With the saturation of efficiency and hyperrealism of TPS, though, quote, those using AI should be careful not to become overly dependent on it for their decision making, which is a trend that increases contemporary society's already high reliance on technology, end quote. It is my stance that if we cannot restore our language to pro-human terms, we will be unable to form an ethic regarding technology and will remain disposed to the techno-capitalist utilitarian account. This paper has explored that by one, reorienting our language toward reality and accurately calling things what they are, we restore the value of intelligence as an ethically guiding force to ensure the common good of all. Specifically, we, quote, ensure that AI is used for the good of all, end quote. And two, by subjugating human intelligence to virtue, friendship and the common good, and by subjugating human intelligence to virtue, friendship, and the common good, and three, aligning technology and all tools, including what I have called token prediction system, to right relation with human intelligence by placing the natural guardrails of survival, justice, and conviviality, then perhaps we will avoid a post-human techno-dystopian enslavement. My suspicion is that in the near future, TPS will generate enormous financial and cultural pressure. As I see it, there are three options that an individual user of TPS faces. Number one, forsake TPS altogether and eliminate or drastically reduce the priority of money, power, and glory from your personal life. Illich puts this perspective this way, quote, every aspect of industrial societies has become part of a larval system for escalating production and increasing the demand necessary to justify the total social cost. Certain tools are destructive no matter who owns them, whether it be the mafia, stockholders, a foreign company, the state, or even a workers' commune. Destructive tools must inevitably increase regimentation, dependence, exploitation, or impotence, and rob not only the rich, but also the poor of conviviality, end quote. Therefore, live simply and increase interdependence in a safe environment with your friends and family. Love your spouse, kids, and community. read and write poetry, for, quote, we cannot forget that poetry and love are necessary to save our humanity, end quote. The second option facing TPS is to plug into the techno-capitalist utopia completely. Abandon yourself to the technocrats. Live the easy, unexamined life. Outsource your intellect entirely. Lose all meaningful relationships and all that is lovely in life. And the third option facing TPS is the middle ground, which acknowledges that, quote, tools are intrinsic to social relationships, end quote. Embrace TPS with firm, uncrossable, ethical lines. Be willing to sacrifice your job and many relationships and luxuries in life, defending your ethical boundaries in service of yourself and those whom you serve. Quote, imperialist mercenaries can poison or maim, but never conquer a people who have chosen to set boundaries to their tools for the sake of conviviality, end quote. And remember that, quote, intelligence is nothing without delight, end quote. Finally, the argument over artificial intelligence is not about machines at all, but about the words we use. Misnaming a tool as intelligence is not a harmless semantic slip. It is the redefinition of the human person. Any tool without the guardrails of survival, justice, and conviviality will turn against its maker. So too with language. To name rightly is to order rightly. To name falsely invites disorder into the soul and city. Our choice is simple. Recover a pro-human language, or watch our words become the chains we fasten for ourselves. The question, then, is whether our culture is prepared to choose a pro-human and convivial life. Thank you. How do I stop this?